Hello everybody, I'm Andy Pruitt, Director of Communications and Technology with Charleston County School District, and I'm joined with our Chief Financial Officer, Glenn Stiegman. Glenn, there's some really good news when it comes to our budget that we really feel like we need to share with our public. The first thing is a balanced budget has been proposed for the 2017-2018 school year to our Board of Trustees. Why so early? Because this is kind of out of the ordinary. Usually it's submitted later in the spring.
Yeah, usually you'll put the budget to the board for the first time probably in April or late April or May. This year, I wanted to compress the budget process for a couple of reasons. Number one, have the budget passed as a final budget before we issue contracts for teachers, so that we've got a budget that will adequately fund the number of positions we're going to have. So that's a primary reason for doing it this year. And also to see if this compressed budget would prevent us from having last-minute decision-making in late June.
And how does this budget match up with the strategic priorities that the superintendent has laid out recently when it comes to things like recruiting and retaining top talent, to improving literacy and numeracy, to equitable opportunities for all of our students across the district?
I think it lines up very well, because in building our budget priorities this year, we solicited information from our allocations committee, which is a committee of employees of the district and some teachers. For certain issues, we asked the strategic planning people, our connections committee, to look at the issues they want to do as far as student performance, achievement, as well as certain benchmarks. The superintendent had a lot of input into that. So I think we're mirroring to a great extent what she wants to see happen.
Now, this is actually the first balanced budget that's been submitted to the Board of Trustees in a few years. What allowed that to happen, and is this something now the community can expect from us, submitting balanced budgets going forward?
I think we can, and I think we should. It is the first time in probably 10 years that they've had a balanced budget, and a balanced budget this early. We have budgeted many times to have deficits and then ran some surpluses. I think we've honed the budget down better than before. You got to remember, this budget was produced on the heels of a big deficit in 15-16, a larger deficit in 14-15. So we did get the board to increase taxes that allow us to have more revenue, but we cut the 15-16 budget by $18 million. So obviously, that would be a big factor as well.
I understand too, on this budget and going forward, that you guys, your staff, are doing conservative estimates on the growth of Charleston County. Right around 4.5% to 5% is what Charleston County is growing at, but you want to keep it in the 3.25% range. Can you kind of explain what you're doing with those percentages and why you're being so conservative with growth?
Yeah, one reason is to be conservative, number one, to make sure we don't overestimate revenue. We've done that sometimes in the past. The county is able to count all the residential growth. We don't get residential property taxes to support us for our operating purposes. And the residential base is growing very strongly right now, so we backed out on it. We did a 2.5% for this year, but I think we can go up to 3.25%. I think it's more reasonable, but I still think overall it's going to be actually in the 4.5% to 5%.
You mentioned primary homeowner tax. That's something that our district and districts around our state cannot count on.
That's right.
Can you explain the state law that prevents us from drawing on that, and where we do receive our funds when it comes to our general operating fund for our school district?
There was a law passed in 2006, Act 388, which took away the property taxes that were levied on homeowners who lived in their homes. Okay, that would include residential property that is single family, condos, that kind of stuff. They replaced it with a 1-cent sales tax, and that 1-cent sales tax was supposed to match up with the amount of property taxes we would have received. It does not, so we've had a shortfall in that since it began 10 years ago, but the homeowners do have that relief. So it's a very, very popular thing. It won't go away. It's going to be here to stay, and to get our taxes, we get that 1 cent, which is not adequate. We also got the ability to raise taxes, and then we do get state revenue, not a lot because of our wealth factor, also to supplement the budget.
Glenn, it's an important thing to discuss too, that this current school year, the 2016-2017 school year, you did a revised budget to be balanced. But to do that, we had to remove money from our debt service.
Right.
going forward with the money that we hopefully will save at the end of this budget for this school year and moving forward, will a lot of that money go back into replacing what was taken out of there?
Yeah, what we actually did was we had a reserve in debt service that was in the $30 million range. We only needed about 10 or 12 million in there. So we transferred some of the millage off of debt service over to the millage and operating, which essentially saved the debt service some $20 million in taxes being levied, and that's homeowners paying that. And it went over to the operating side. That was a way to supplement the budget. That's how dire our situation was. We will look carefully doing the 17-18 as to whether we'll restore some of that millage over there, and probably will actually.
One other thing was hoping you could clear up for us, Glenn, is that there's a misconception about what is funded by certain budgets.
Right.
There's our general operating budget, and then there's capital programs. Can you kind of explain the difference there? Because I think a lot of people believe everything goes into one pot, and so that if we're spending money like we're going to spend money on this regional stadium east of the Cooper, that we're essentially taking money that could be spent on books or teacher salaries.
Yeah, that is a tremendous misconception. How do you build a school when you're not paying teachers enough? The money that goes into building schools, for instance, that comes through the sale of bonds. When you sell those bonds, they can be used for one exclusive purpose. If they're building bonds like we sell, those can only be used for construction or heavy renovation or brand new schools. So they do not parallel. Legally, we can't have one fund fund the other. There's other funds too. Our total budgets are about $800 million. And our operating is only about 450 of that. So a lot of money is going into capital. That's probably the next biggest one, our debt service, and then a lot of special revenue. So those funds don't get to be commingled because of state and federal laws.
All right, well, hopefully that clears out some of the questions you might have about how we fund Charleston County School District and how certain projects are funded as well. Glenn, thanks a lot for your time,
Yeah.
and thanks for watching Stories of CCSD.